Exposed: How Trump's unexpected tariffs transformed 17,000 American lives in incredible ways. Jake Thompson sat at the kitchen table, his hands trembling around a worn coffee mug as he stared blankly at the news flashing across the screen. The bright colors felt garish in the dim light of his small home in Brooksville, drowning in the heavy air of dread. The steel mill, a cathedral of productivity, was crumbling under the weight of tariffs, affecting thousands, including him. The sound of laughter from his children, Emily and Liam, was muffled as worry wrapped around him like chains. This wasn't just a job. It was his legacy, his family's lifeblood. The days that followed were a haze of tension. Folks at the factory who once shared lunch break jokes now exchanged anxious glances, their voices low and heavy with uncertainty. He could sense it, feel it gnawing at his insides like a cold wind cutting through thick winter clothes. Fear settled into the cracks of their community until it felt like an uninvited guest at every gathering. The air was thick with casseroles left on porches, neighbors peering in to offer rides for school or groceries, but the kindness only masked the simmering fear beneath. One afternoon, Jake's phone rang. It was Mark, his brother, ambitious and thriving in sunny California. "Jake, I've got a job for you at my startup. It's safe, it's secure." Mark's voice was smooth, a lifeline amidst a sea of stormy waves. The proposal hung in the air, glimmering like a distant beacon. But as tempting as it sounded, Jake felt the weight of Brooksville pressing on him. He envisioned leaving the homestead, the steel mill filled with memories, the friendships forged over decades of hard work. As he confided in Sarah later that night, her eyes clouded with worry, they discussed the offer. "We could have a better life, Jake," she whispered, but even her words trembled with doubt. The tension pulled them tight, the notion of leaving their roots for a snazzy tech job putting a wedge between them. It reached a boiling point at the community meeting, where faces blotted with concern filled the gymnasium. Jake stood, feeling the weight of all those eyes, haunted by unspoken fears. "What does it mean to be successful in America?" he asked, his voice breaking like a twig underfoot. The crowd shifted, the unspoken answers buzzing like static electricity. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The silence that fell over the room felt thick and oppressive. Old friends exchanged whispers, brows furrowed in concern. Jake's heart raced. Would they truly support him? Or would they resent his leap toward what some labeled a betrayal? Hope and dread tangled in his chest as he realized that they were all facing the same question. Would the steel bond that held them together shatter, or would they forge something new amidst the uncertainty? As he looked into the faces filled with fear, empathy, and hope, he felt a fire ignite inside him. It was now or never. The clock ticked, hands poised to reshape their futures. And with that, Jake understood the profound truth. Their choices would define not just the life they led but the community they'd either nurture or abandon, compelling them all to reconsider what they truly held dear. The next morning, Jake awoke to sunlight pouring through the curtains, illuminating the dust motes that danced in the air. It felt like a new day, yet the same heaviness clung to his heart. After laying there in the cocoon of warmth, he finally peeled himself from the sheets. The kids were already up, their laughter floating through the hallway, but each chuckle felt like a reminder of what was at stake. He made his way downstairs, where Sarah was trying to keep up with their usual breakfast routine. Pancakes were sizzling on the griddle, their sweet smell mixing with the scent of brewed coffee. In that moment, Jake wanted to embrace the normalcy, to pretend that all was well. But as he poured syrup onto Emily's stack of fluffy pancakes, his mind raced with thoughts of the meeting. "Did you sleep all right?" Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, gentle yet probing. "Not really," he admitted, forcing a smile. "Just thinking about everything." "Me too," she sighed, brushing a crumb from the table. "Jake, we need to talk about Mark's offer. You should really consider it." The words hung heavy in the air. He knew she spoke from a place of care, but leaving Brooksville felt like abandoning a part of himself. I can't just leave. This place, these people, what would they think? Before Sarah could respond, Liam burst into the room, a superhero cape flapping behind him. Dad! Look at my costume. Both parents chuckled, grateful for the distraction. Jake ruffled Liam's hair, but as he did, he felt fear creeping back. Today's community lunch would focus on their plans, on who would stay and who might leave. The thought of facing that crowd again turned his stomach. As the day marched on, the early sun faded, giving way to clouds that draped Brooksville in gray. The community center buzzed with chatter as Jake and Sarah arrived. Familiar faces greeted him, muddled under coats of worry. Just like at the meeting, he felt their anxious energy pierce through him. It was food for thought, yet stifling all at once. The town's mayor stood up, her voice trembling as she shared stories of resilience, tales of their fathers and grandfathers who built steel with sweat and grit. A warm nostalgia blanketed the room, but Jake found himself processed by the weight of their reality. What could he say that wouldn't seem like abandonment? When the mayor called for input, Jake felt the eyes everywhere, boring into him, pleading for reassurance. He rose once more, heart racing. What if we take this challenge and turn it into opportunity? His own words surprised him, igniting a small spark in the back of his mind. We could invest in ourselves, in new skills. Sure, we could lose this, but what if we redefine success right here? Murmurs of hope swept through the crowd, an unexpected reaction. Encouragement twinkled in their eyes, and for the first time, hope felt like tangible presence rather than a distant dream. Together, we take a leap, for our families, for our community, he continued, conviction hardening in his words. What we do today defines who we are tomorrow. Applause erupted, lifting Jake off his grounded feet. The swell of hope felt contagious, a beam of light cutting through the fog of uncertainty. He could see it now, the possibility of forging a new path together rather than retreating into individual safety. Leaving behind the mill wasn't the only option. They could innovate, adapt, and build something stronger. Inspiration flickered between familiar faces. They'd support one another. As Jake stepped back into his seat, adrenaline still pumping through him, he felt Sarah's gentle squeeze on his hand. The warmth reminded him of their bond rooted in love and shared dreams. But then he glanced at the empty space beside him, where only moments ago sat memories of joyful faces, now looming larger due to an uncertain future. Would they embrace the vision or shy away from the leap into the unknown? Just as doubt began to weave its way back into his heart, he saw newfound determination flickering among the people around him. In that moment, he knew. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about them all. The journey ahead promised to be challenging, but also transformative. Just as they were finding their voices again, so would they find their future. But would the townspeople truly rise to the occasion, or was this just a fleeting moment of defiance against the encroaching darkness? As the room filled with a renewed spirit, Jake's heart pounded with uncertainty and hope mixed in a delicate dance. What awaited them on this uncharted path? The atmosphere inside the community center buzzed with electricity. As the applause died down, Jake stood, caught between exhilaration and anxiety. The weight of their collective hopes pressed on him. Had he truly ignited something in them? His heart drummed in his chest while emotions pulsed around him. People leaned closer, eyes brimming with expectation. The mayor stepped down, her face glowing with renewed vigor, and she motioned for volunteers to share their ideas. One by one, voices rose, emboldened by Jake's message. Janet, a single mother of 3, spoke about starting a local crafts business, selling homemade goods at fairs. Others chimed in with ideas about urban farming, workshops for skills training, and even a community repair shop. Each idea was a lifeboat thrown into the turbulent waters they all faced. Jake felt the seeds of a movement taking root. Each suggestion filled him with a rush of hope and strength. They weren't just talking about survival anymore, they were dreaming. But then he met Sarah's gaze. Was she as supportive as she seemed? A flicker of concern crossed her features. He knew she was worried about practicality, about the amount of work these ideas would take. The familiar worry settled back into his stomach, but he pushed it aside. Let us make these dreams actionable. Jake called out, trying to rally the energy. What can we do right now to start? The crowd buzzed with ideas, and Jake felt himself sweep along in their momentum, but they needed a plan. They needed structure. Suddenly, someone in the back shouted, "We need teams. Let us break into groups." The suggestion took on a life of its own. People sprang from their seats, forming smaller circles, each dedicated to a different idea. Jake watched as laughter and discussion filled the room. It was like turning a key in a rusty lock. The possibility of something new was finally breaking through. But the enthusiastic clamor soon made its way back to him. There was question upon question. "Jake, will you lead one of the groups? What do you want to focus on?" His breathing quickened. Could he really take on that responsibility? He glanced at Sarah again, silently pleading for her support, but her face was unreadable. Anxious flickers danced in her eyes as she gripped her chair. Before he could respond, voices around him merged into a steady anthem of Jake. Jake! Jake! It was exhilarating but overwhelming. The collective call felt like a weight on his shoulders. Their faith in him was both a blessing and a burden. He licked his lips, glancing at Sarah one more time. "Okay, I'll lead a group," he finally found his voice amid the chorus. "Let us brainstorm tangible steps we can take to get started." A cheer rang out, fueling him. In that moment, he felt his doubts soften, if only a little. As they gathered into teams, he felt the pulse of hope strengthen. Yet, in the corners of his mind, shadows lingered. Would all this energy translate into real change? What if, despite their best efforts, the looming threats of loss and despair crushed their dreams? With the groups forming and chatter filling the room, Jake turned to the chalkboard at the front. He began to write down every idea as the members shared their thoughts. There was something beautiful in their unity. Still, the question nagged at him, was this a flash of brilliance or just a flicker before the darkness? As he captured their thoughts and aspirations, he felt the weight of accountability settle on him more heavily. They believed in him, but could they really trust in their shared vision well enough to make it a reality? As the room filled with ideas and cascading laughter, Jake's heart beat with a mixture of determination and doubt. Would the community seize this moment to build a new future, or would fear pull them back into complacency? Suddenly, a loud crash sounded from the back of the hall. All heads spun toward the source of the noise. What happened? Could this be the distraction that derailed their budding plans? Jake's stomach turned as anxiety flooded his system. The once vibrant energy felt apprehensive. With trepidation creeping in, he glanced at Sarah, questioning if they could withstand this new challenge together. What lay ahead could undermine everything they had just built. Would they shatter under the pressure, or would they rise to meet it? The noise in the community center hushed, and a few gasps echoed as everyone's eyes turned to the back. The source of the crash was a folded table, its legs buckled awkwardly. Helen, the elderly volunteer who had been trying to set up the refreshment stand, stood frozen in place, a look of sheer panic on her face. Her hands trembled slightly as the chatter quieted, leaving an almost eerie silence in the air. Jake's heart raced. He pushed past the nearest group, making his way to her. "Helen, are you okay?" he asked, concern creeping into his voice as he reached her side. She looked at him, wide-eyed, then down at the mess on the floor. I am so sorry, Jake. I thought I had it secured, but it's okay. We'll fix it together," he replied, his voice soothing yet firm. As he knelt to help her up, he felt the eyes of the crowd shift back to him. He remembered the energy they had just shared, how vibrant their dreams felt just moments ago. All of that could disappear if they panicked now. Jake stood, brushing off his knees, and faced the crowd. "Look, everyone. Accidents happen. It's a reminder of the work we're taking on. There will be bumps in the road," he said, trying to restore the spirit of the room. "But just like Helen, we can work together to overcome them." A few chuckles broke through the tension, a reminder of their collective resilience. Janet called out, "If we can lift a table, we can lift this community." Encouraged, Jake took a deep breath and smiled, feeling the weight on his shoulders lighten just a bit. Exactly. Now let us refocus. We have some amazing ideas we can work on. Let us get back into our groups and remember, every dream comes with its challenges. As the team members returned to their small circles, laughter and lively exchanges resumed. Together, they worked out logistics and discussed responsibilities. Jake felt the energy rekindling, but in the back of his mind, he couldn't shake the feeling that the incident had been a precursor to something deeper. Sarah caught his eye again, and this time he noticed her expression more clearly. She looked proud, but also wary. "You handled that well," she said softly as she drew nearer, her voice tinged with admiration. "But what if something bigger happens?" "I don't know," Jake confessed, running a hand through his hair. "But we can't let fear steer us. If we want to build something real, we have to embrace whatever comes." "But what if?" she hesitated, internal conflict crossing her face. "What if we push hard and it all falls apart?" A silence settled between them, a shared understanding of the risk and vulnerability they were both feeling. "I can't promise that won't happen," he replied slowly, weighing his words. "But if we don't try, we'll never know what we could achieve together." She nodded, her eyes searching his for more conviction. He knew the fear she felt was shared by others, lingering in the corners of the room while they felt bold and brave. But reality was a fierce competitor. The crowd began to strategize again, and Jake tried focusing on the moment. It was about hope's small steps that could lead to monumental change. As he moved to join his group, a sudden crash from outside drew everyone's attention again. This one was louder, rattling the windows and making hearts race. The energy shifted from hopeful to anxious, and Jake felt his stomach drop. "Stay here," he urged as a few people moved to the door to peek outside. "Let us stick together." The group hesitated, anxiety spreading. Jake's heartbeat quickened. What could await them out there? Was the wind of change bringing a storm? Ahead of him lay uncertainty, and with it, the fragile dreams they'd just begun to forge. The moment hung in the air, waiting for someone to take a leap into the unknown. Would they rise to this new challenge or buckle under the pressure? He could feel something pivotal was about to unfold, leaving him with a single question: were they ready? The door swung open, letting in a gust of chilly air, followed by a cacophony of shouts and a heavy thud. Jake's heart raced even faster as his mind raced through the possibilities. What could cause such a ruckus? "Everyone, please stay back," he heard a voice command. It was Greg, the town's safety officer. He rushed in, looking slightly out of breath, eyes wide with urgency. "Jake, we have some sort of trouble right outside," Greg said, glancing around the room. Fear clawed at Jake's insides. He watched as faces turned pale, each person processing the urgency in Greg's tone. "What kind of trouble?" Jake asked, concern spilling over in his voice. "A truck, it overturned at the intersection," Greg replied, running a hand over his short hair in frustration. "They're saying there might be a chemical spill." A collective gasp echoed through the crowd. Jake's thoughts, full of visions of shared projects and dreamed-up futures, shattered in that moment. This wasn't just a bump, this felt like a full-blown crisis. "Is anyone hurt?" Sarah's voice cut through the tension, trembling slightly as she spoke up. "Not that we know of yet," Greg said, but his eyes conveyed a gravity that suggested it could easily change. "We're advising everyone to stay indoors for the moment while responders assess the situation." Jake nodded, his mind racing. He needed to keep everyone calm. "All right, listen up everyone. Let us take a seat and keep our voices down. We'll get updates from Greg as we go," he said, trying to gather everyone's attention, pulling them back from the verge of panic. But murmurs erupted as people exchanged worried glances. Questions hung thick in the air, each one fueling the fear creeping through the room. Jake felt the weight of their uncertainty pressing down on him. Was he capable of leading them through this storm? "Let us channel our energy into something constructive," he suggested, trying to find a footing amidst the chaos. If we need to pivot, we can do it together. Even an emergency plan can be a chance to strategize. Like what? Someone shouted from the back. What if it gets worse? What can we even do? Jake took a deep breath, trying to project reassurance. We start by supporting each other. Let us divide tasks. Some of us can monitor updates, while others can check in on anyone living nearby. We'll make sure no one feels alone in this. His voice carried a note of determination, and slowly, people began to nod, their expressions shifting from fear to grit. He felt a flicker of hope ignite in him. The strength of the community always had a way of emerging even in dark moments. Sarah stepped forward, her gaze steady. I can lead the group checking on the elderly, she said, her voice gaining strength. They might need more support right now. Perfect idea, Jake replied, feeling a rush of pride for her initiative. He saw others begin to step up as well, offering to take charge of different tasks. Just then, another loud thud rattled the building. The grimacing sound echoed like a warning. Jake's stomach knotted as the realization hit him afresh. This was just the tip of the iceberg. Everyone, we need to stay alert, he urged, fists clenched in determination. We'll face whatever comes together, but we have to be ready for anything. As they broke into small groups, Jake's heart raced with worry yet carved with a newfound strength. What if the real test was just beginning? Would they be able to hold the foundations of their community strong, or would they crumble under the pressure? Outside, sirens wailed, while uncertainty swirled like the wind. Jake stood at the center of it all, standing firm against the tide of fear, ready to face whatever was coming. What would one moment of chaos reveal about the strength of their community? Jake felt the cold steel of determination settle in his chest as he glanced at his neighbors, their faces a mixture of fear and resolve. The dim light of the community center flickered, casting shadows on their worried expressions. He couldn't allow doubt to seep into their hearts. They were in this together. Greg, can we get more information? Jake asked, his voice steady. What's being done out there? Greg shifted from foot to foot, glancing at the door as if the answers would appear through the wood. I just came from the scene. Firefighters are assessing the spill, and hazmat teams are on their way. But the longer we wait, the more uncertain it gets. Jake swallowed hard. The anxiety around him was palpable. A thick fog of uncertainty enveloped their small group. Yet, the small spark of hope he felt earlier remained, flickering within him like a candle in the dark. Okay, let us break it down, he began, pacing the room to channel his restlessness. We need to establish a communication line. I want one person monitoring local news and updates on social media. Another can contact the local authorities for information on the spill status. Soon, people began to shuffle in place, some whispering ideas, while others took charge, ready to step into the chaos. A sense of purpose started uncoiling the tension in the air. Sarah returned, handing out printed sheets with contact details for everyone. I've organized a buddy system for checking on the elderly, she said triumphantly, her earlier uncertainty replaced with fierce determination. No one should be alone right now. Together, we can cover more ground. Jake stepped closer to her, thankful for her leadership. Excellent work, Sarah. You're right, we can't let our neighbors feel abandoned during this. We have to support each other. As the minutes ticked by, they moved like a well-oiled machine. Folks from the back jumped in to help coordinate volunteers, each voice sharpening the greater plan. The nervous whispers morphed into assertive discussion, a collective heartbeat rising above the noise of sirens outside. But then another thud echoed, louder and more urgent than before. Jake! Greg shouted, panic surfacing in his voice. The spill might be worse than we thought. They're saying they need to evacuate some nearby houses. A collective gasp filled the community center, all eyes landing on Jake. This was the moment where fear could take over or where courage could rise. We stay calm, he asserted, feeling a rush of adrenaline. If evacuation is necessary, we can assist those in need. We still have time. But deep down, he felt the dread crawling up. How far was it going to go? After a brief moment of silence, Jake turned to Greg. Let us prioritize evacuations first. We can split into teams. I want one group on standby to help with logistics and transportation. The rest can keep monitoring updates. Time is of the essence. People were already nodding, determination pushing the fear to the side. The worry had turned into action, but Jake felt that unease settling back into the pit of his stomach. Were they truly ready for what was coming? As he organized the groups, the weight of responsibility pressed down on him. Each decision could either make or break the fragile structure of their community. He thought about the lives at stake, the faces of families who looked to him for guidance. Be on the lookout for emergency vehicles and stay together. He called over the murmurs. Through the chaos, Sarah caught his eye, and for a moment, he saw the reflection of the same fear he felt. But as she nodded at him, it grew clear they were in this together, united against the storm threatening to unleash unimaginable consequences. As they moved to their tasks, the uncertainty of the air thickened, wrapping around them. Deep down, Jake knew the fight wasn't just with the spill. It was about proving how much they cared for one another. How far they would go to make sure their community survived. What would they discover about their courage when faced with the unimaginable? A sharp siren pierced through the murmurs in the community center, silencing the anxious chatter momentarily. Jake felt his heart race as the sound echoed down the hall, a grim reminder of the urgency wrapping around them like a thick blanket. People shifted uneasily, their eyes darting towards the door, waiting for any sign that help was on its way or that the situation outside had taken a turn for the worse. All right, guys, let us keep it moving. Jake's voice rang out, cutting through the tension like a knife. He waved his hands, trying to encourage everyone's focus. We can't wait for the unknown to dictate our actions. Each of us holds a piece of what needs to be done. He looked around, landing on Greg, who still wore a furrowed brow. Greg, can you go check outside? We need to know how close the emergency vehicles are and if there's more intel. Greg nodded, swallowing hard before heading toward the exit. The moment he stepped out, the murmurs picked up again, anxiety bubbling just beneath the surface. Sarah moved closer to Jake, her brow knit in concern. Jake, what if it gets worse? What are we going to do if we're forced to evacuate ourselves? Jake softened his tone, doing his best to reassure her. We take it one step at a time. Our first priority is ensuring everyone else gets to safety. We can't foresee everything, but we can control how we respond to it. Before Sarah could reply, a fireman burst through the door. His uniform was smudged with soot and he looked winded. We need to evacuate now. He called, his voice booming yet urgent, commanding immediate attention. The spill has expanded, and it could become toxic. There's a mandatory evacuation in place. It's serious. The collective gasps were breathless. Panic started racing through the community center like wildfire. Jake felt his stomach drop. We can handle this. He shouted, raising his hands, forcing the crowd to focus on him. Listen up. We need to remain calm. We have a plan in motion. It's time to execute it. As whispers turned into a chaotic buzz, Jake directed people into action. Sarah, get everyone ready to go door to door in the neighborhood. Make sure they understand it's urgent. Got it. She answered, her tone sharp and clear, determination shining through her initial fear. The others swiftly followed Jake's lead. He could feel the energy shift. Everyone knew they were facing something much bigger than themselves. This wasn't just about one spill, it was a moment that would shape their entire community. Jake quickly grabbed a roll of duct tape from the supplies on the table. Listen, as we assist evacuations, I want you to secure any necessary items at home, medications, important paperwork before heading out to the designated areas we talked about earlier. His orders carried purpose, the urgency settling into action as they started moving. Neighbors leaped into teams, some preparing to assist the elderly while others gathered emergency supplies to take with them. But every step forward was shrouded with heavy uncertainty. Jake's heart beat faster. He felt the weight of his responsibility descend like a supernatural force. As they moved toward the exit, Jake noticed a flicker of hesitation in several faces. It was a tangible fear, the kind that creeps in during moments of crisis. In their eyes was a shared understanding that a lot was at stake. Suddenly, a loud crash rang out from outside, followed by shouting. Jake froze, breath caught in his throat. What was that? Someone yelled. Jake exchanged a frantic glance with Greg, who had just returned in time to hear the commotion. Stay together. Form a line. Jake called, trying to keep control. He stepped toward the door, determined to confront whatever waited beyond. A chill raced through him. What had truly been unleashed? He took a breath and opened the door, stepping into the chaos. What he saw sent a shockwave through him, leaving the fate of their community hanging in the balance. Jake's heart pounded as he opened the door, revealing a surreal scene. The air was thick with gray smoke, obscuring the view, and the shouts grew louder, more frantic. Around him, neighbors stepped closer, their breaths hitching at the sight. In the distance, silhouettes of emergency responders jostled under a golden glow that flickered dangerously close to an ominous black cloud. Get down! A voice shouted, and Jake instinctively ducked, his body tensing at the chaotic sounds. Flames licked along a nearby building, roiling with color and heat, while shattered glass crunched underfoot. Adrenaline surged through him. This was no longer just an unexpected spill but a full-blown emergency. He turned to his neighbors, meeting their terrified expressions head-on. We need to move. We can't let panic take over. He shouted, his voice filled with urgency. He pointed to a group of people in the center of the chaos, unsure and confused. Let us help them. With no time to waste, he dashed toward that group, Greg right at his side. Together, they grabbed hands with a little girl who had been separated from her mother. Where is your mom? Jake asked, kneeling down to her level. Over there. She pointed, her eyes wide with fear, a tear streaking down her dusty cheek. Just then, a loud explosion echoed, causing the earth to vibrate beneath them. The little girl shrieked, and Jake's gut twisted with dread. There was no more time for hesitation. He scooped her up, glancing at Greg with determination. We're getting her to safety. As they made their way through the turmoil, they shouted for others to join them, forming a makeshift line. People moved more quickly now, helping neighbors find their families, ushering the elderly toward parked cars that teetered dangerously close to the chaos. Jake felt the power of community in motion, each person contributing, each shout of reassurance mingling with cries of distress. But it wasn't just the flames that burned hot in his chest, it was the urgency that sparked hope amid the fear. They were facing a disaster together. He felt that flicker grow into a steady flame. Sarah! He called out, searching for her amidst the fray. Panic darted across his heart until he spotted her, helping an elderly neighbor down the steps. Relief washed over him, but it was short-lived. We need to keep moving, he urged. They organized their efforts, ushering people toward an open area as smoke wafted toward them. The fireman from earlier joined them, a flicker of determination in his eyes. I've seen enough messes like this to know we've got to act fast. The winds are shifting, and we don't have much time. With every moment, the reality of their situation grew heavier. What if we can't save everyone? Jake found himself thinking, the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders like an anchor. But the sheer noise of their community moving, rallying, fighting back was enticing. Just stay focused. He rebuked himself and held the little girl tighter. Around him, teams were forming, working to gather whatever supplies could be salvaged. We are not done yet. We are all in this. Suddenly, a loud crash broke through the crowd as part of a nearby roof caved in, sending debris tumbling toward them. Jake's instincts kicked in, and he swiftly pushed the girl behind him, shielding her from the falling chaos. Get down! He yelled again, fear coiling tightly in his chest. Was this it? Would they fight against the tide of destruction, or were they already losing the battle? The sound of more sirens filled the air, promising reinforcement and hope. But would it be enough? As the dust settled and the air thickened with uncertainty, Jake realized that they were at the brink of something monumental, but was it destruction or resilience that would define their community? The heat pressed down as the shadows of the unleashed chaos loomed ever closer. Would they manage to rally back together, or would the flames of fear consume them? Jake's resolve stiffened. This wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about unity, about standing strong. The next moment could change everything. What lay ahead? The roar of the flames echoed in Jake's ears, harmonizing with the cries and shouts around him. Each moment felt stretched thin, alive with urgency. He took a deep breath, the smoke clinging to his lungs like a shroud. People moved with a newfound determination, however frantic, charging a way forward where there had only been confusion. With the little girl nestled in his arms, he and Greg pushed through the chaos, scanning faces for signs of distress. The girl's grip tightened around his neck, her small heartbeat thumping against his chest. "I'm right here," he whispered, hoping to calm her. "Look!" Greg shouted, pointing toward an open area where more families were gathering, some cradling pets, others clutching belongings. "That's where everyone seems to be headed. We should help get everyone there. Let us go," Jake urged, determination evident in his voice. As they moved, the cries of fear mingled with burgeoning hope. Jake glanced back to find Sarah, her brow furrowed in concentration as she rallied a few neighbors to form a human chain, pulling an elderly woman from a nearby building. Every small action added to that collective drive, washing away the shadows of despair. Just then, another explosion tore through the air not too far from where they stood. The ground trembled violently and debris rained down like deadly confetti. Jake shielded the girl with his body as they huddled together for protection. Fragments struck the ground nearby, raising a cloud of dust and ash. "Is everyone okay?" he shouted, his heart racing faster. He saw people stumble, some falling, others rising to help those in need. But one action pierced through him. A man dashed forward toward a fallen beam, while flames surged menacingly at his heels. It was a moment that took Jake's breath away. "Stop!" he yelled, but the man was already too far. "No!" A deafening crash met Jake's ears as the beam fell. Fear exploded in his chest. Just then, through the chaos, he caught sight of the firemen again, racing into action. "Stay back. Wait for the professionals," he barked, but Jake felt the weight of hesitation in that moment. Would they lose another soul if they didn't act? He turned to Greg, heart pounding in sync with his emotions. "We have to get out there, help him." "But it's too dangerous," Greg shouted back, his eyes wide. Jake's heart clenched. He knew they needed to help, following that deep, instinctive pull to save. Pausing for just a moment to meet Greg's gaze, he made up his mind. "I can't just stand by. What if that was?" His voice trailed off, but the thought hung heavy in the air between them. "I'm going with you," Greg said suddenly, a steely resolve coursing through him. They had come this far together, why stop now? Together, hearts racing, they darted toward the fallen man. Jake barely registered the searing heat, his instincts overtaking the fear gripping at his mind. "Help!" the man shouted, pinned beneath. Jake's muscles screamed as he pushed against the beam, his hands slick with sweat and ash. "Grab the other side," he cried to Greg as adrenaline surged through him. They strained, the weight fitting uncomfortably against them, but together they squeezed out every ounce of determination. Fire crackled and spit nearby, but their focus didn't waver. With one final heave, the beam rolled away, and the man gasped for breath. "Let us go. Move," Jake urged as the flames seemed to inch closer. But before they could retreat fully, Jake felt a sharp pain slice through the air. A piece of debris, flying dangerously, cut the solitude that enveloped them. The moment hung in the air, bated breath mingling with swirling smoke. Would they flee to safety, or would this be their final stand? In that heartbeat, every choice felt monumental, pressing against Jake's heart like the flames drawing nearer. Would his courage save those who needed it most, or would fate turn the tide against them? When Jake's mind raced through the possibilities, instinct kicked in more fiercely than fear. "Keep moving," he shouted again, urgency flowing through his veins. He grabbed the man's arm, forcing him to his feet as Greg helped guide him away from the billowing flames. "Let us get out of here." The three of them stumbled toward the open ground, gasping for air amidst the thickening smoke. Each step felt heavier than the last, but Jake pushed onward. The barrier of heat pressed in, but the surge of adrenaline kept them strong. As they burst into the open area filled with neighbors gathering the brave, a cacophony of chatter grew louder. People were linking arms, ushering loved ones towards safety with their eyes set on hope. Jake caught sight of Sarah searching the crowd, her face painted with fierce determination and undeniable concern. "Jake!" she yelled, relief flooding her voice as she darted toward him. "Thank God you're safe. What is going on?" "There's been an explosion, and we need to stay focused," he called back, his heart racing as he scanned their surroundings. "We need to keep directing people towards safety." For just a moment, everything around them faded to a wash of color, voices blending into the sound of hope battling fear. Together, they formed a human chain, people passing word along the line, ensuring everyone moved quickly but safely. "Gather any remaining supplies," Jake shouted to those nearby. "Every small thing will matter." As hands reached toward first aid kits and water bottles, every connection mattered. The pulsing energy of the community was igniting anew, every face reflecting resilience. From behind, Greg was rallying others, pushing through the noise of panic to create a clearer path. "Emergency responders are on their way. We need to prepare," he coached, drawing more people into tasks that steadily emptied their fears into action. "We've got to set up a staging area over there," Sarah motioned, her eyes lighting up again as she spoke. Jake could hear the conviction in her voice echo through their shared hope. They rushed together, mapping out a safe perimeter, designating spots for families, covering them with warm blankets and help. Just as they finished, another rescue team arrived, their faces steady amidst the chaos. It felt like déjà vu, backing a chance at real change. The warmth of assurance washed over Jake. This was what it meant to be part of a community. The firemen from earlier moved through, hands signaling to organize and count people. Yet, even amid the crisis, something shifted in Jake's gut. This community, battered but unbroken, was not just surviving, they were transforming. An infectious pulse of determination rolled through them. "We're in this together," Jake finally shouted over the noise, arms sweeping the audience. "We are stepping up. Brooksville hasn't seen its last day, and we're proving that." People erupted in cheers, their spirits lifting amidst the fear. Faces brightened, hearts thumping with the fight. They weren't merely enduring, they were fighting back, and in those moments, every fear turned into a stepping stone. It wasn't just about the urgency of the moment anymore, it was about what they could build from this test, a community rooted deep in love and shared struggle. As the chaos subsided, Jake glanced at his family. Sarah's warm smile, the kids playing close, reminded him of why they fought. And all around, they continued to organize, to support. Hope had taken root, blending kindness with determination. It was a precious bond that would carry through this storm and beyond. When Jake took a breath, he felt the weight of the world lift. They would rebuild together from ashes, and this spirit would echo through generations. The whirlwind of fear transformed into a powerful force that would redefine their town. And as the sun began to set, the fire dissipating behind them, Jake realized they had already ignited something, a profound understanding of who they were: strong, united, and unyielding. This was their moment. This was Brooksville. If you felt the power of this story and want to see more incredible transformations, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for our channel. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this ending, every word counts. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Our community is counting on you.